everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be chatting about firm research and how you can learn more about the firms that you're interested in, and specifically about how you can use that research then in applications and the best things to research that will help you in an application as well. I think firm research is massively important for you to even have the passion about the firm in the first place. You would have needed to have done general research into them to have even wanted to apply to them. So I think there will be normal things. You've looked into what practice areas they do and about a bit of work that they do and where their offices are, because you'll want to work there in the future. You'll want it to be in a location you want to work at and things like that. There is the general side of research there, and I have on my Etsy shop that I made, when I was first looking into what firms I even wanted to apply to, I used these. They're the firm research sheets on my Etsy, which you can get kind of as a PDF or in physical form, but it's just so you can write down the location, the key values, some of their core clients that you think are interesting, partners, so you can write a little bit of information about some of the interesting partners and what they've done, their greatest achievements and awards, just for you to kind of see what kind of awards they've got. The role of intern, so you can kind of write down the role of what you would do if you were going there when you were possibly on a summer vacation scheme or something like that, and then also the role of what you would be required to do when you are a trainee there. And then questions you have, and then interesting stories as well. So you can write down a couple of further questions that you might have that you want to find the answer to. And then interesting stories, just a few different stories about them. There's loads on the news. If you just type in the firm name, I found loads on the news about them. And I did this for about 4 firms, and then I actually only ended up applying to 2 because I found that a lot of the vacation schemes overlapped with each other, and I'd got quite far in those 2 applications, so I didn't want to then apply to another 2 and then kind of have to drop out of them. So I only applied to the 2, but this is kind of how I did my initial research, and that's how I kind of found if that was a firm that I wanted to apply to. And also a few other things that I wanted to chat about before I go into really the research, the in-depth research that I did for kind of interview and assessment centre prep. I attended a lot of events with the firm, specifically the one firm, which is the firm that I got my vacation scheme with. I attended lots of different events with them to try and get to know them as much as I could, and that I could then also mention, and I did mention in my application and also in the interviews. I was able to talk a lot about the different things I did with them, because a question you're always going to get asked is, why do you want to work for this firm, or why do you think you can see yourself working with this firm? Well, if you've been to loads of events with them and actually spoke to people who work there, then you can draw on that a lot and talk about your different experiences with those people. And that was the first question I had during my interview, so I was really able to chat about a few of the different things I went to. So I did a commercial awareness competition with my university that was sponsored by Eversheds, which is the firm I'm doing my vacation scheme with. So I got all the way through to the final, and myself and my partner actually went on to win, which was really cool. And it was judged by some trainees from Eversheds. So they actually watched us do our little commercial awareness presentation, and then we got to network with them afterwards. So then they knew us, and I also got personally invited after that. They saw my Instagram, my study Instagram, and I was invited by someone with the grad recruitment team to go to their Nottingham Insight evening, virtually, when normally you have to apply. So I'd actually already applied to and attended the Birmingham office one about a week before, and then she just said, please come along, it'd be lovely to see you again. And that was so nice. I actually went to their Insight evening twice, one for the Birmingham, one for the Nottingham. So I heard a lot of the same information twice, which was really, really good to get it in my head. And it was just lovely to have known that they actually personally contacted them as well, and someone from the grad recruitment team did know me already. But she was actually part of the Nottingham grad recruitment team. I applied to the Birmingham office, so I don't know if they chat that way, but I actually don't think that had any difference to my application because it was a different grad recruitment team. But if you can kind of get involved and like chat to people from the grad recruitment team from the office that you are working with, then I think that could also really make a difference. I went to a dinner with Eversheds, a virtual dinner where we all sat and ate. We got a voucher for delivery and I actually had a Pizza Express whilst chatting to some people from the firm, and you just got to ask them questions. After that, I then added a few people that I met at these different events, actually saw and spoke to over the camera on LinkedIn, and then I didn't contact them again until just before my assessment centre to just let them know that it was so lovely to meet them, and I just wanted to let you know that I've got through to the assessment centre, and if you have any general advice then that would be amazing, and just chatting to them. And then I also let them know when I got the vacation scheme as well, so it was just really nice. They all work in the Nottingham office, so unfortunately I won't be singing with them, but it was still really nice to have even spoken to someone from the firm. But again, if you can speak to someone who's in the office that you want to go to, then I think that would be really beneficial. But I spoke about those different experiences that I had in my application and my interview, so I think trying to get involved with as many things as you can with the firm that you like is definitely a really good start. So kind of the initial research, then going to different, maybe you could go to a law firm fair and ask a question, or even like I did at the start, I was too scared, so I sat there and listened to what the law firm said when they answered other people's questions, and I wrote down a load of answers from that I used in my research kind of pack that I made, which I'll show in a second. But yeah, a lot of these different experiences, they do so many talks, and especially at my university, and I'm sure they do at different universities as well, especially Evershed, so I'm always seeing them sharing on Instagram what kind of different things they're doing. So yeah, follow them on social media as well. That's a really good tip, is to attend to as many different events as you can with them and follow them on social media to see what kind of events they're heading to. And then let's finally get on to the actual really deep firm research that I did. So I've kept my booklet full, so I don't think you can really see how thick it is, but that is how thick it is. It's quite a long booklet full of firm research that I'm just going to just go through and talk through. But this here is all of the different things that I had ever been, different events that I've been to. I've noted down some things about them on random pieces of paper whilst on a camera to them. I also kind of attended a legal cheek law fair with the firm where I'd wrote down a few different things that they said in the notes on my phone, and all of that, I found all of it and put it all together on a Word document, and then I kind of padded it out with extra research from the internet as well. So Legal Cheek is really good for firm research if you're looking for a website, and then also the Legal 500 is where I did a lot of mine. So I used those two. I used the firm's social media a lot. Another firm that I applied to had a YouTube channel, so I watched a few of their videos to hear more about the things that they're doing, and mostly their website was my go-to, definitely. Their website, and also news articles about them. I read lots of different news articles about the different things that they're doing, and firms also publish on the website, which as I'm going through this booklet I'll chat through, but they also publish kind of almost like PDF packs all about kind of their values. So they have it on their website, but then they also have more in-depth things that you can click on and read through, especially about kind of like what they're trying to do for the environment, and their pro bono as well, and what they're doing for the community. For both firms I found absolutely loads about those different things, and they had like huge, like 20-page booklets that you could read through with loads of photos and stuff that you could download to your computer and read. So all of that went towards me making this. So I'll just talk through some of the things that the headings that I wrote down on here, and then I'll say kind of what I did with this information afterwards. So I've got things to remember about the assessment centre was right at the top. So this was the really in-depth research that I did for my assessment centre. When I did my initial written application, I just used what I'd learned from them for the different events I'd been to, and then also looking through the website a little bit. But mostly, especially with for Eversheds, it was very much about me as a person and my personal strengths rather than about them. But I always made sure I had their values in mind. I always write down their key values and always try and link back to their key values in my answers. So that's kind of what I did for that. This is my in-depth for when I actually got to meet them and had my interview and things, but you can also do this much for your written application if you want to, but this is kind of just what I did afterwards. So that's what it says at the start. Things to remember about the assessment centre, because they definitely had a lot of tips and about the length of different parts of it. So then the first thing I've got is the role of trainees. I'd wrote down quotes from different trainees I'd heard from. That's pretty much the only way you'll hear massively about the role of trainees. I do have a little bit of on legal cheek about what trainees can do there, but mostly it will be what you hear when you actually talk to trainees at the firm. So I have a few different quotes there that I found when I met people, and that is actually a really important one to look up, because in my video interview they asked about what kind of tasks do you think you'll have as a trainee at our firm? Do you think you'll enjoy them? And I kind of sat there like, oh my gosh, what things do trainees do? So it's really good to know generally what trainees have to do, and that's how I answered it, kind of like a general about contacting clients and proofreading documents, or like actually writing the first drafts of documents, that kind of thing. Is what I talked about, and it went well. So, but knowing a bit more specifics I think would be is really good, and that's why I looked into it a bit more. Then I've got offices, so I literally just wrote a little bit about how many offices they've got and where they have them, and also about what kind of structure they have. So at Eversheds they have open plan offices, and then that was actually really helpful when I did at the assessment centre. I had like a role play exercise where we had to, well, if you watch my assessment centre video you'll know kind of what I had to do, but I really used these things that I found from this, especially about the structure of their offices, in that activity. So even if something that you think like, oh, I don't really care about that, like it's not a reason why I want to work at the firm that they've got open plan offices, but it's just, there's so many things that you could research that you might not think is that relevant, but then it comes up. So that's another good one. I did a tiny bit about firm profit, but I didn't even really try and memorise those numbers. It was just for me because I was interested. Their firm approach, so they have a sector approach, so just and also about what sectors, what they focus on. How many employees they have, the areas of law, obviously that's really important, and you would have already, as I showed from this, when you're doing your initial research you would have already looked that up. I'd assume you'd already know what areas of law, but maybe looking into that in a bit more detail. So this was one of my longest bits. I really wrote down a lot of quotes about each of their different teams and exactly what they do in their teams, different members of the teams, different partners. So this was 100% one of my longest chunks of information. And then of course the key values, I mean even this should be on the first page right at the top because that's so important, their key values. Clients, just to be interested really, just because I wanted to know what clients I have. I have a whole list of clients and I just kind of wrote down the names of ones that I recognise, and I found that really interesting to look into. And those were all on the Legal 500. They have big lists of clients. I found pretty much all of them from there, and then also off their website they have news articles and a lot of those talk about their clients as well. Diversity, I did a lot of research about their diversity. That's a couple of pages as well, all about how many females they've got, what they're doing for BAME, and that's really important to see that they're actually open about that and trying to make change in that area. So I've looked into kind of what they're trying to do to make a change there. Culture. There's a massive thing at Eversheds about their culture, so I pretty much already knew about that. I didn't have much to write down there because I'd met them so many times. I had loads of my own opinions about their culture, but if you haven't got to meet them, then definitely try and look into that as well. Global corporate responsibility at the firm. That's a really, really important one, and this was something I massively focused on. Again, in my assessment centre video, I talked about how in the interview questions I kind of had an approach of almost saying 3 things per question if I could, especially with the one, why do you want to work for Eversheds? I did their culture and how I've met people from there and I feel like I really fit in was one. The other one was kind of about their reputation, the areas of law that I would really love to work in, their real estate and things like that. And then the final thing I talked about was their global corporate responsibility and pro bono and the things that they do for the community and how I think that's really important and I want to get involved in that. So I knew that that was something I wanted to talk about when they asked me why I wanted to work there. So for that was something I really, again, massively looked into. And as I was talking about earlier, they have so much about that on their website because they're doing massive things for the community. They want to shout about it, they want you to know about it. And also on their Instagram, social media, they share loads about the things that they're getting up to in the community as well. So I have a huge amount there. Support at the firm. I think this is something I mentioned when I was talking about the culture there, and I also had a few questions kind of about how I act around new people and how I communicate well with people, and I talked a lot about mental health and how that's something really important to me, and understanding other people's feelings is really important to me because I've had struggles with mental health myself in the past. So to know about the actual specific support at the firm and the fact they have these different support networks as well, I was able to bring that in there and bring in the fact that I think the firm is working really hard to help everyone who works there with their mental health and checking up on them and things like that. So that's a really good thing to research into if you're passionate about it. Their IT systems and innovation, a lot of this is to do with kind of new ideas that they're coming up with, apps and websites and all this kind of thing, and knowing specific names as well. I used the specific names of different apps that they've created, and they were quite impressed by that. So that's a really good one to research, is innovation. They love to talk about how can we be more innovative, how can we make the firm better. So to know what they've already done will help you to know how can they expand on that, or oh, they've already done that, so I'm not going to say that they should do that, and that kind of thing. And then I've got a big amount on different partners. I really enjoyed actually looking up partners. They're on the firm websites, they have kind of a list of partners in the different offices, and I just pressed on random ones and read through what they've done. It's just so interesting to see what kind of things they've got up to and what they've achieved, and it gives you a look into a few of the different clients that they've got, and also about very specific interesting things that they've worked on as well. And then also just a little bit more about the partners, and then you may end up being interviewed by one of those partners you've researched. I didn't get told who I was getting interviewed by, but I did get told by Eversheds who I was going to be interviewed by, but I didn't by the other firm. So you can look them up when you find out, but if you aren't going to find out, that you might as well research them anyway, just in case you end up meeting them and then you already know a bit about them. So that was a big chunk, because I wrote quite a bit about different ones. And then interesting articles, I just copied and pasted a few of my favourite news articles that I'd found when looking at the news about the firm. Statistics, which I just talked about, the average arrive time, the average hours that you have, annual leave and stuff like that, just for my own knowledge, for hopefully when I work there one day, I know. Work-life balance, which are all kind of things that you will either find out when you talk to people who work there, and then there's a few bits about that on Legal Cheek as well. And then to finish off, I've got a page about what makes Eversheds different. I kind of freaked out when somebody had said to me that this is a possible question that could come up, but because I only applied to 2 firms and I'd looked into episodes a lot more than the other firm I applied to, when a friend said to me that they can ask you what makes them different from other firms, I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't really researched that many others because I love this firm so much. I think they're amazing, but I don't know what actually makes them almost stand out above the others, because I don't know what the others have, if that makes sense. And I was a little bit like, oh my gosh, but I just spent a whole page kind of writing down like what my favourite things about them are, and then also kind of like trying to find exactly what makes them stand out about other firms, researching other firms and comparing them to Eversheds a little bit, just so then I was able to actually know specific points. Oh, they're better at this, they're the best at this, they're good at this, they do this and other firms don't do this. So it's good to kind of have that on a page as well, because you might know like 1,000,001 things about the firm, but if you don't know what actually makes them different from other firms in terms of their approach and things like that, then you might struggle if that kind of question comes up. So I just wanted to make sure that I was ready for that. And then that is my massive booklet. So I spent a whole day, it was 2 days before my assessment centre, putting all of it together and then printing off, and I read through it all again, and as I read through it you can see there is some blue highlighter. I highlighted my favourite facts out of this huge booklet because there was no way I was going to remember all of this, but just having it for future is nice to have all of these facts in one place. But I highlighted the things that I wanted to try and memorise. And then just beforehand, like over the next day before I had the assessment centre, I kept looking over these different highlighted bits, and I also labelled some of them as well. I would highlight it and then kind of label why I've highlighted it, like what question I could use that in, kind of thing. This was just so helpful. So I really hope, I know that was like a really long rambly video, but I just really hope that was useful to some of you to see how you can approach firm research when you're initially even thinking about what firm you want to work for, and then more like closely and specifically like how much research you could be doing before your interview and things like that, and how to put it all together. I do think printing it off and highlighting it is a really good idea if you have a printer, and especially if you are going to have assessment centres and interviews in person in the future, you will have this printed. And I know that for my vacation scheme I'm going to have this right by me. I don't think they'll be testing me on these kind of things or asking me these kind of questions, but to just refresh my memory of my research of them just beforehand will be really good as well. And I have this little booklet forever. But yeah, I hope you guys found that really useful, and please give it a thumbs up if you did, and also share it if you thought it was helpful, and I will see you all really soon. Bye.